Hello everyone, Juxtaposition here with a new camera, so hopefully you can hear me better. I have the same sound microphone and hopefully this system is being worked out. I have some other additions coming soon. Wanted to go over the Paul Pelosi drunk car wreck. This would be part 3. And of course include Nancy Pelosi, his wife. They're both 82 years old. I want to go over some things that the media, doesn't tell us, and I think they're really important. It's what the media doesn't discuss that helps you comprehend and understand what's going on here. We have a felony car wreck that totaled 2 cars, well over $200,000 worth of property damage, destroyed a $5,000 fence. It's a miracle that there's no dead bodies anywhere. I mean, allegedly we had all these COVID deaths, but here we have a high-speed T-bone torpedoing of a Latino agricultural worker by the name of Jesus Lopez. He's 48 years old. He's driving home to Calistoga. He's heading north on Highway 29, aka the St. Helena Highway, California State Highway 29. The average speed on that highway is about 65 miles per hour. It has a double center line. It's a 2-lane double center line highway. In parts, it's actually a 4-lane, 2 lanes going both directions. But at the accident scene, which is near Yountville, just north of Yountville, is the little town of Oakville, and there's a grocery store at the corner of Oakville Cross Road, which is also known as Walnut Avenue if you should hit the brakes and turn west, which would be, depending on whether you're heading north. I believe Jesus Lopez was heading north to Calistoga because it's 10:26 p.m. He's heading home. It's a Saturday night. He's probably had a long day of work, because these people work 6 days a week, and some work 7 days a week during harvest season. This was in May 28th, 2022, so it's not harvest season. It's just regular hard work in the vineyards of Napa Valley. Anyway, Jesus Lopez, age 48, in a 2014 Jeep Cherokee. He's proceeding north at probably around 65 miles an hour. See, if you don't go that speed, you'll hold up traffic behind you. And all of a sudden, to Jesus's left, flies a $170,000 2021 Porche Cayenne. It's named after a hot pepper. It's named after the capital of French Guiana. Home to Jonestown. Jim Jones. Nancy Pelosi knows who Jim Jones is. She's met him personally. And remember, Jim Jones was shot in the back of the head in the jungle of Guyana at the Union Carbide property that is known in the media as Jonestown, as if it was named after Jim Jones of the People's Temple, because he operated the People's Temple for at least 10 to 12 years out of San Francisco and Ukiah and Greenfield Ranch up there in Mendocino County. They sent Charlie Manson up there. They sent Susan Atkins up there. They sent Mary Bruner up there with Charlie Manson's baby boy. Yeah, Mary Bruner had Charlie Manson's baby. It's perfectly natural. No, they weren't married, but what does that have to do with a good story? So my point is that Mary Jo Bailey, I believe, was sent up there. And also Ruth Ann Morehouse, age 15, the daughter of I forgot his first name, Morehouse, who was a CIA operative and control agent for Charlie Manson 1958-59, when Charlie Manson was a CIA soils geologist sent to Mexico on a secret assignment. That's right. Who said you have to graduate from high school or go to a university to be a CIA geologist? Are you understanding what I'm saying? That everybody who's a spook is sort of an actor? You know, I know we don't think of Richard Helms as an actor, but he was. He was a fraud and an actor and a rotten human being. And that could be said for William Egan Colby, who was a fraud, an actor, and a rotten human being, who in the end was assassinated in his kitchen, probably around 8:30 to 9 p.m. on April 27th, 1996. Yeah, you know, just a few weeks before Timothy Leary went bye-bye at 10106 Sunbrook Drive, right down the ice plant hillside from where Abigail Folger was bayoneted 28 times to death by a NATO soldiers, plural, 3 soldiers, using rifles and the M7 bayonet. Hopefully it looks more menacing with this camera. I can assure you it's razor sharp, it's double edged. If I touch this, I will cut my fingers. And if you put your weight into this, if it's attached to a rifle, this will go through bone. So even if you miss, and it's easy to miss when you're hitting a moving target like a woman who's fleeing for her life, and you encircle her with 3 of these, you're going to stab her, puncture her in a 360-degree pattern, which is what happened. And this is going to hit her ribs, and it's going to go through anyway. There's nothing she can do. It's only 22 millimeters wide, which means at its widest point, this will go through ribs. If you turn it sideways, then obviously any kind of a knife can go through ribs, turn sideways and parallel. But even if you hit the sternum, the center of the chest, bone, it will go through the bone. And by the way, that happened to Abigail Folger. It went through her bone, right into her heart. She had 28 puncture wounds between 1 inch deep and 6 inches deep. And this weapon is 7 inches long, but when attached to a rifle, you lose an inch, so then it's 6 inch long. So it would appear that Abigail Folger's bayonet wounds were a bayonet attached to the rifle. Rifles, plural. Anyway, getting back to Paul Francis Pelosi, named after St. Francis, to the city of San Francisco, which he calls his home. I want to remind you that he was born on April 15th, 1940, which made him 82 years old when he was drunk and blew the stop sign heading east. I know what he was doing. He was coming from a party where he drank and ate, but mostly drank, with a woman. It appears very strong evidence that the person who called 911 could only be a woman, because Jesus Lopez is got to be trying to remember if his head's still attached to his body, because he was broadsided by the Porche Cayenne, which was speeding, blowing through the stop sign. And in the Wikipedia report, if you read about this incident on the Paul Francis Pelosi Sr. Wikipedia bio, they will tell you that he was hit by another car on Highway 29. Poppycock on that, people. The only person doing the torpedoing was Paul Francis Pelosi Sr., age 82, fallen down drunk. If you don't believe me, go look at the CHP, California Highway Patrol video. It's available on the internet now. Go check it out. The guy is falling down drunk. He can barely utter a complete sentence. 82-year-old private banker, the owner of Financial Leasing Services Incorporated, known for real estate and venture capital investing and consulting, collecting consulting firms. Is it like what would you hire Paul Pelosi to advise you on? Oh, he's known for his great stock picks. I don't think this guy knows what day of the week is, okay? He certainly doesn't know how to drive drunk. And my point is that he's a private banker just like Abigail Folger was. Just like Ines Mejia, Abigail Folger's mother, was. Now, Abigail Folger was only 25 years old, so she wasn't as experienced as Paul Pelosi. But I don't think Paul Pelosi has more experience than Ines Mejia. Ines Mejia lived to age 100, and she never got in a drunk driving crash in Napa Valley. And her daughter got bayoneted 28 times to death. I think Paul Francis Pelosi is on borrowed time. I think his shelf life has expired, and I think his lovely wife, graduate of Trinity College in Georgetown, the Swamp, District of Columbia, Paul Francis Pelosi, undergraduate of Georgetown University, Jesuit, Indoctrinated. I think that these two crazy lunatics are just about done. And Nancy D. Alessandro was born on March 22nd, 1940, right? So that makes Nancy Pelosi approximately 23 days older than her drunken husband, Paul Francis Pelosi Sr. Anyway, he's a private banker. He's drinking. It looks like he has a woman in his passenger seat. He torpedoes a hardworking Jesus Lopez, totals his car, ends up crashing into the fence line across on the east side of 29 because of the momentum and speed, and destroys the fence, which is $4,900 plus of repair restitution that Paul Francis Pelosi has agreed to pay is a condition of his misdemeanor plea agreement. Nothing about this case is a misdemeanor. Nothing. But here's what I want to know. Where's the woman who was in his car? Where's the woman who called 911? Is it the same person that was in his car? Was there a person in his car? If not, was there some random woman standing at that intersection at 10:26 p.m.? Are you kidding me? There's no bus stop there. There's no bus line that picks up there. The only people present at the corner of Oakville Cross Road and Walnut Lane and State Highway 29, it's 3 roads, intersection of 3 roads. The only people present were Paul Pelosi, Jesus Lopez, and a woman. And I'm telling you, it looks pretty clear to me the woman is with Paul Francis Pelosi, not his wife. Because Nancy Pelosi is reported in the media as giving a speech that evening at Brown University, which I believe is, 5 hours away by private jet. So it's important to know that Paul Pelosi attended St. Ignatius High School in the Haight-Ashbury area near Sharon Meadows, a meadow named after a banker. Where Timothy Leary was quoted as saying that those important sentences: "Tune in, turn on, drop out." Well, that's right where Paul Pelosi went to high school. He didn't graduate from there because they sent him off to a Pennsylvania private school called Malvern Prep School in Pennsylvania. And you got to realize that when I'm trying to get the ages of these people involved in this story. So Timothy Leary said those infamous CIA words because Timothy Leary was a career-long CIA operative using LSD, electroshock treatment, media cutout for all the talk shows. You name it, Timothy Leary did. He even got into a debate with Art Linkletter about the suicide, aka murder, of Art Linkletter's 20-year-old daughter, Diane, who was thrown out of her 6th floor window. She didn't jump and she wasn't on LSD. She was murdered, probably by a guy named Ed Durston, who's 48 years old, who's in Art Linkletter's 20-year-old daughter's apartment on the 6th floor in West Hollywood at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday morning, baking cookies. And you're telling me she jumped out of her window because she's on LSD? And then Art Linkletter, has to have a showdown with Timothy Leary via remote television camera. I mean, that was a do this or else, your next daughter will go. Because 3 of Art Linkletter's children died early. And if you add his son-in-law, that would make 4 people who died before the age of 42. I'll give you the ages of the people who Art Linkletter's children died. Age 20, Diane. Age 35, Robert. Age 42, his daughter. Age 33, yeah, I said 33, his son-in-law, John Zweier. So that's a lot. And believe me, if you add Sharon Tate and Tom Coomer onto the group, it balloons up because guess what? Art Linkletter is a member of the CBS family. He worked for the CBS television studios for 25 years. Of course, he knows Sharon Tate. Of course, he knows Tom Coomer. Art Linkletter's, middle son, Robert, appeared in episodes of The Green Hornet and in Batman as the Joker, as in young Joker, played young Joker. So of course he would know Tom Coomer. They're all it's a small group of people, and they all know each other. And that would include Buddy Epson and the Beverly Hillbillies, and that would include My Favorite Martian and Mr. Ed the Talking Horse, and it would include the Munsters, with Al Lewis, who, by the way, Al Lewis had 3 children, and Susan Atkins and the Manson girls babysat Al Lewis's children, who was in his 40s in 1969. And you got to realize that the Manson family didn't live at the Spawn Ranch. They lived a couple of miles from the CBS television studio. So it would be very easy for Grandpa Munster to drop his children off at 13158 Chandler Boulevard, so that Susan Atkins, who was pregnant at the time, she was pregnant, and she would be babysitting Al Lewis's children in early 1969. That's about when she had her baby, by the way, because when she finally was bullied and arrested, her child was, I believe, 8 months old, little 8-month-old boy, by the time we got to Thanksgiving, 1969. So that means that she was pregnant, but no baby during the month of January and February, and that's probably when she was babysitting for Grandpa Munster of the CBS family. All right, so getting back to the Pelosis, he went to St. Ignatius High School, which is a Jesuit indoctrination center as part of St. Ignatius Church. Just about 5 blocks away, you have the Haight-Ashbury Free Medical Clinic. That's where Timothy Leary had an office. That's where Abigail Folger's mother was the paymaster there. Ken Kesey came and went. Bill Graham undoubtedly had an office there while he was promoting his free concerts with money that Enos Mejia, Abigail Folger's mother, would give him, because I can't think of where else he'd get the money. I mean, she's in charge of the money. She's a private banker, which is kind of what Paul Pelosi kind of looks like. I mean, I don't think people pay him for his advice. I think he collects money laundering fees for rerouting money in accordance with some information he got at a men's club, because they don't want to write it down, and just transfer the money along, like a merry-go-round, around and around and around we go, and where it ends, only the private banker knows. Anyway, Nancy D'Alessandro, a.k.a. Nancy Pelosi, they lived in Pacific Presidio Heights, which is right next door to the Army base called the Presidio, where Sharon Tate's father lives. So you can bet that Sharon Tate's father, was someone who would be around Haight-Ashbury, would be around University of San Francisco, and the Lone Mountain School for Women, and St. Ignatius High School, and St. Ignatius Church, where Enos Mejia would attend church services there. It's walking distance. And somebody needs to pay Paul Tate, Colonel Paul Tate, Sharon Tate's undercover father, who is a member of Operation Gladio, which, if you've seen my videos, Gladio in Italian means by the sword, which could mean M7 NATO issue bayonet. And the reason I say that is Paul Tate was stationed on a NATO Army airbase in Verona, Italy, whilst his daughter was pimped out for the Stars and Stripes magazine in 1959. She appeared in the April issue of 1960 of the Stars and Stripes in a leotard, wearing a cowgirl hat, cowgirl boots, looking up at the sky, straddling a surface-to-air Nike missile emboldened with the letters U.S. Army, at a NATO airbase in Verona, where her father worked. Then she was pimped out to the Hollywood scene that was filming movies in Verona during 1961. So by then, Sharon is around 18 years old. 17, 18 years old, she's introduced to Jack Palance, Anthony Quinn, who are filming the historic biblical story about Barabbas, who was let free, the criminal murderer who set free on Passover by Pontius Pilate, who was the the prefect of Judea, the governor of Judea for the Roman Empire, and leaving Jesus to be crucified. In other words, he let someone go. I think Pontius Pilate was thinking that they would let the non-murderer go, but they let the murderer go, Barabbas. But I'm not really clear that Barabbas was that much of a murderer, because I believe he, as story goes, he murdered a Roman soldier or centurion, which he probably had a legitimate reason to do that. So I think it might have been a justifiable homicide. Anyway, we'll never know because you can't find the transcripts on that trial. All right, so my point is that Nancy D'Alessandro was educated at the Notre Dame Institute of Notre Dame for Women in Baltimore, Maryland, and then she attended the Trinity College simultaneously to when Paul Pelosi attended the Georgetown University. You know, that's the school that Aaron Valente graduated from, the School of Economics at Georgetown University, and then mysteriously died out here in California. Yeah, and not too far from the Pelosi residence in San Francisco. I mean, it's down the peninsula, down in Menlo Park. On last person to see her alive, has an office at 2500 Sand Hill Road. He went to Harvard University. He also attended Stanford to get an MBA, Master of Business Administration. So I'm feeling that Stanford is all over the story of the Pelosi family. It's all over the story of the Aaron Valente. It's all over the Georgetown, Jesuits, University of San Francisco, St. Ignatius High School, St. Agnes Elementary School, which is literally 2 blocks from the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. It's literally 1 block from where one of the 2 homes that Patricia Hearst was allegedly kept when she was kidnapped. If you believe that story, which I don't believe that story. I believe the media says she was kidnapped, but I think she was hanging out in Haight-Ashbury with a wig. You know, kind of like the Anne Heche red wig. Maybe, why can't Patricia Hearst, who attended the Dominican Order Santa Catalina School, the school that Abigail Folger attended, why can't Patricia Hearst wear a wig? Maybe a magenta wig. Because what I'm seeing in all these stories is Jesuits, Society of Jesus. I'm seeing the Society of the Sacred Heart Order. I'm seeing banks and private banking. I'm seeing obedience and world mission. Those are the 2 oaths that these operatives are taking. World mission means you do what you're told and you launder that money in accordance with your orders. And it's military. In other words, you don't question your orders. You follow orders or people die. Didn't we hear that in A Few Good Men with Jack Nicholson? Didn't he said, we follow orders or people die? I think we learned that with the Sharon Tate, got pregnant, wouldn't have an abortion, wouldn't renew her Filmways Inc., aka MGM 7-year contract that was expiring in 1969. Was expired completely in December 31st, 1969, but it was worthless contract by the time we got to the summer of 1969. Sharon Tate cannot be booked for work because you generally book 6 months to a year out. So she hasn't renewed, so they can't book her for any work. So that means she's not renewing. And that contract needed to be renewed December 1968. Anyway, so she's not following orders, and guess what? People get whacked. That includes the Art Linkletter family. Only you don't whack the television star. 25 years with CBS, 19 years with NBC television. Right? You don't whack someone that you have 39 years invested in. You whack the children. You whack the children. And that gets everybody in line. Look what they did to Frank Sinatra. They kidnapped Frank Jr. from Lake Tahoe from a casino at age 19. That happened literally 10 days after the John Kennedy assassination. Frank Sinatra's son, Frank Jr., got kidnapped. You don't think that didn't send a message? Frank Sinatra got a lot of messages. He was friends with Marilyn Monroe. Okay? He knew Robert Kennedy. He knew John Kennedy. He knew Sharon Tate. He knew Tom Coomer. Tom Coomer is his barber. Don't you think if someone murdered your barber with a NATO bayonet that you would get a message? Do you think you wouldn't remember your barber getting stabbed 7 times and shot once with a .22 caliber rifle that was undoubtedly attached to this weapon to this bayonet rifle, tandem. It's a lot easier to puncture people when you can lean your weight into it. All right, so also I want to weave into the story that Gavin Newsom is in the story, because he's related through to the Paul Pelosi family, because Paul Pelosi has an older brother by the name of Ron Virgil Pelosi, who was born 6 years earlier in November 2nd, 1934. And his first wife, Barbara Newsom, her brother, William Newsom, gave rise to Gavin Newsom. That's where Gavin Newsom came. So in other words, what I'm telling you is Paul Francis Pelosi, the drunk driver who nearly killed Jesus Lopez, he's the uncle to Gavin Newsom. Maybe a step uncle. In other words, it's his Paul Pelosi's sister. No, Paul Pelosi's brother's first wife's son is Gavin Newsom. So there you go. And the other thing I want to point out is obviously Paul Pelosi with his female passenger, I believe, who was heading east on Walnut Lane. I know what he wanted to do. He wanted to go directly across State Highway 29 onto Oakville Cross Road, take that all the way till it tees into Silverado Trail, turn north, left, proceed 2 miles, hit the brakes at Zinfandel Drive, turn left, go across the historic stone bridge, hit the brakes, turn right, and punch his security code into his gate and enter his tennis court and swimming pool gated private prison on the Napa River. That's where he was headed. And if it wasn't for Jesus Lopez minding his own business driving along, maybe we wouldn't have heard about this Paul Pelosi drunk driving incident. But it begs the question, who's the woman in his car? What's her name? What's her age? What's her relationship with Paul Francis Pelosi? Does Nancy Pelosi know who she is? Is she having an affair with him? Doesn't really matter. What was the address of the home where they were coming from, where they were drinking? And was it one of the private estates on that road? There's about a dozen houses on that little road. 5 of them are, $10+ million estates. So probably it was one of those. Or it was the Carmelite House of Prayer. Could it have been that? Now that's at 20 Mount Carmel Drive. However, if you're drunk coming down that driveway, boy oh boy, I probably would turn right and I would go to the Oakville Grade Road. Then I would turn left, and then I would get to Highway 29, and I take Highway 29 down to, I'm not sure if there's a Zinfandel Drive off-ramp, but that would probably be the alternative way. Hey, when you're drunk, I don't think you should be driving anywhere, even in a driveway. But in any case, what I'm trying to tell you, if you Google that area, you'll see Doak Road, you'll see Mount Carmel Road, Carmel Drive, 20 Mount Carmel Drive. There's also the caretaker house at 24 Mount Carmel Drive. I want to know who's paying the caretaker. That property appears to be $100 million with its fountains and gardens and walking trails and acreage. And it has daily landscape maintenance going on. And I don't understand how financially that these monks, these men wearing robes can possibly afford to maintain the $100 million property. And I just wonder if they had a private dinner party, which Paul Pelosi attended there. I don't know. So if you're hearing this message, check into it, see what you can find about private dinner parties at the Carmelite House of Prayer, which is part of the Carmelite Mission Network. All right, I just wanted to do a short video to test out this camera and to let you know that there's a lot more layers involved with the Pelosis, but certainly Society of Jesus is in there, Notre Dame, Trinity. There's a road called Trinity Road that attaches to Oakville Grade, the steepest paved road in Napa County, and Nancy Pelosi attended the Notre Dame Institute for Women, all-girls school in Baltimore, Maryland. So I think there's a lot of encoded messages here. I think it's far more than a coincidence. I think it's, as Dr. Hamamoto would say, correlation equals causation in this situation. So thanks for listening. Please hit the like and subscribe, and we'll talk soon with new exciting discussions. Have a good day.